Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the conversation. I hope you have enjoyed the performance. So we will start with Dr. S. Raghuraman, who was absolutely the reason, the inspiration, and the seed behind this performance. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, everyone. Welcome to the conversation.
Okay. First of all, I want to say one thing. Understanding the Sangam poem is little difficult. For two reasons. One is the old, second one is the words, what they used in their poem. So, word by word understanding the poem is totally different. Then we have to go with the phrase level. So, the word to word meaning and the phrasal level meaning, then only you can understand what is the total context of the poem. But the performers, they did well. Just I want to say, because you are all in the foreign soil, with all that, if you are all having that proper effort to understand the poem, and we had a lot of meeting and you are actually having a lot of discussion among yourselves and as well as with like Priya and other people, but you wanted to present it in a very nice and effective manner. You did it well. But one or two mistakes and flaws are there, it is inevitable. Because 2,500-year-old poem, it is not that much easy to understand within a week or within a month to present it on the stage. So that is the only thing. Because this is the beginning and this is, you are taken that initiative. Then again and again, if you are going to repeatedly doing the same song, then only you can understand how the song is going to be. For example, Sudar, todi, Kellai. That in that song, our dancer has started with that song with that heroine is sleeping, and all these imaginations are very good. But the most important thing is the surprise is the rasa there. Because she is not at all knowing that hero. She is not at all knowing that person. After seeing that person only, she came to know that fellow is none other than the boy when we were in the young time, the youth time, used to come and do a lot of mischief. So that shock you have to show on your face. That's the most important. Because it's a surprise. It's a pleasant or a very interesting surprise would have shown it. Then another thing, Tundorumyatha Kantaku Nallil. So that song, it is actually belonging to that Woodal, the Kutru is Talaivan Kutru. The hero is telling, but how the song goes, the dancer started to do it right from the narrator stage. Because first she started as a narrator, then she is coming into the heroine's position. Right? So, and where you are going to do the narrator's form and when you are going to change your mood or shift to the heroine's form, then but whereas the entire Kutri is Talaivan's Kutri. See the beauty. So, there are three different shifts I have taken already, so that is a major problem. Try to stick on to one particular shift. Whether it is a narrator's way of doing it in that way, then it is convenient. Don't going on shifting your mood. Narrator to heroine, heroine to hero, then the audience will get confusion. Because I am knowing the poem word by word, so it is quite easy for me to understand what the dancer is communicating. The Sittrin Nattrun Patri, it's a very simple song, but even then, the music is so good because I know Bharathi, it's a very beautiful music. But the problem, the dancer, please follow the line and the music. Because the music is going on, the background is going on, and it is talking, or the music is telling the details of the war front. But the dancer is doing the mother's position. So please go and watch the music and do the justice to the music. Otherwise, the poem, understanding the poem is perfectly right. Everyone understands the poem in a right sense, and everyone wanted to execute it in a proper sense. They executed it well. Because it's the first attempt that itself concerned to me 60 to 65% it came out well. All the dancers presented it well. Right? Because understanding the poem, because I am talking only the language side, I am talking only from the poem side. And Abhinaya and other details, Madam Priya will go and talk about it. Because I am having my own opinion in Abhinaya that I do not, because I do not want to talk about that, because concerned to me the poem, the base. everyone understand the poem in a right manner. That is the most important thing. Understanding the Sangam poem, that itself is a great thing. So all the dancers, all the performers, actually they did. And they were having the good knowledge in understanding the Tamil language of the past, and they presented it well. Right? This is my opinion. Then after Priya's comment, I will come to, if possible, I will talk to you later about the Abhinaya and other details. And now handing over to Priya. Right.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much, sir. And we remember in December when you said, enough of all this learning. Only when you start doing, you will stumble.
Exactly.
And you have to start correcting one by one. And from there we started. So the fact that we have all passed itself, I think, is first step over.
They justified. I do agree. They justified.
Thank you so much, sir.
So justifying the poem, that itself is a great thing, because Sangam literature is not that much easy. So they started to justify. They justified to an extent possible. We will see what Priya ma'am says.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Priyaka?
Yeah. Namaskaram. Apologies for my lack of video. Okay. So I just wanted to say very, very well done, everybody. Really well done. I'm truly proud of all of you. I think what Raghuraman sir said is invaluable, because for him, every word opens a world of meaning. And Tamil, the Sangam poem is something really sacred and something that he has lived with all his life. So, feedback from him, his point of view is really invaluable for your next step in this journey in this poem. So, as Sir said, this is only a beginning. And only when you start, you really, and when you perform it, and when you feel the movement and the emotion in your body and in your face, it's only then you start really understanding and owning the poem. So this is only a beginning. And I think it has been a huge challenge, because first of all, to understand the atmosphere and the context of the poem, to understand the word-to-word meaning, because the lyrics are not in the Tamil language that we understand and speak today. It could be a foreign language, even for those for whom Tamil is a mother tongue, or those who are familiar with the language. So to try and get to the soul of the words, then to the kind of music that that Rajkumar sir has done, which speaks. The music speaks. It's not merely following the lyrics. It brings out the meaning of the words. And every musical interlude, there is a movement to the interlude. It not only moves the poem, but it also directs the dancer to move in a particular way. So it is very challenging. And I think that all of you have really risen very well to the challenge. And having said that, this is only a beginning. I think you'll have to very carefully note all the points that Raghuraman sir says, regarding the mood, regarding the importance of what mood is for that particular poem, and what is the emphasis, etc. And start your process of thinking, analyzing, and get deeper into owning the poem. I know each one of you had a different challenge. It was not, and each one of you had your own strengths. But what struck me was, truly, I mean, sometimes even unexpectedly, the way that you all have overcome that and worked towards making that challenge into an advantage. When I saw the final presentation, I was truly overwhelmed by the enormous hard work that you have all put in. And I really have no points to, critique, because I think this is from now on a journey of self-awareness, and you'll have to work as you work understanding the poem and how you treat it. I think your experience will grow and the way you communicate will be more effective. So just to say congratulations to all of you. Thank you very much for making me a part of this journey.
Thank you so much. And on behalf of all the dancers, we really have to thank both of you for being so patient and unconditionally stood by us to just bring us to this first baby step. Yes, more after this, how we take each step, we don't know. But at least so far, it's been a major learning curve for us. So thanks to both of you. Absolutely, thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Deepa.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. So we have, let's have Mahalakshmi, because Mahalakshmi is one of those persons who was there with us in the initial days. And then it's 6 months since you have seen us, no, Mahalakshmi? So what do you think it is like now?
Namaskaram, Akka. Namaskaram, Raghuraman sir. Namaskaram, Priyaka. First of all, thank you, Deepa Akka, for calling me an insider, although I've been away from the project for a while. I mean, Deepaka constantly talks about connecting dots. I think today I kind of realized what it means, because today all the dots were connected for me, because when I was a part of the project, it was still in the poetry stage and still we were all exploring the poetry. And now with the music, choreography, and even the ideas have had so much of layering and have gone through so many different so much of transformation. I mean, I'm very, very proud of all the dancers, but most importantly, I think this project itself has been very dear to me because of the kind of people I have met through the project. Raghuraman sir, so endearing throughout the journey, always with us, explaining anything we want, how many ever times we wanted. It was, I mean, ask him the same question 50 times, he would answer with the same patience. So really, and the kind of friends that I've made through the project, all of you, I mean, and so it was a very personal, I mean, very, I felt very proud. I felt like my family was dancing here today. I felt very proud of all of you. And I'm nobody to say anything more, but I'm very happy for all of you. And I can see all the hard work. And congratulations, Deepaka. I think the greatest strength has been you, because you have got the best of resources to the project, be it Raghuraman sir, be it Priyaka, be it, you know, even for informal discussions with Samyaka, everything. The journey has been very enriching. Like you've always said, it's about the journey. So we never had a goal in mind initially, right? So that we did it with all our heart, and that reflects today. Because the kind of conversations we've had very intimate conversations, and all of that culminated in this piece today, so in the performance today. So I really would like to thank Deepaka for connecting, joining all the dots, for getting the best of resources to the project, and congratulations to everybody. I'm very proud of all of you, Akas. Thank you.
Thank you, Mahalakshmi, but I think you actually nailed it. It's about the fact that everyone really brought their best self to this space that also helped us bring each other's strengths up there in front of everyone. So let's have Bridget. Bridget, as a contemporary dancer and probably as someone who's not very tuned into Tamil culture, Tamil language, or for that matter, not even Bharatanatyam, what do you have to respond to the performance? How do you
firstly, thank you for inviting me to be present and also a part of the project as a whole, and specifically being able to be here today and witness these outcomes without really any knowledge of the process or of the language or of the poetry or of the movement forms. So I value being able to learn. So thank you all for how you're contributing to my learning today. I feel that perhaps I'm best placed to share of the thoughts and attentions that came forward for me as I was witnessing the work, and then they can sit and be with any level of relevance for you. So initially, as a viewer, I felt curious about what was unfolding in front of myself. And I became very aware over the course of all the work. So I'll speak about a journey as a whole, about this dialogue for the performer between an internal narrative and then the construction of an external world that internal narrative or emotion is interacting with, but then also an awareness of being seen, so that this wasn't happening in isolation, but that there was this conversation between the self, the world, the imagined world constructed around the self in the space. So you created very dimensional spaces, even though you were in empty environments. That sense of imagination in construction and that resonating out and becoming visible and tangible for myself as a viewer was very clear, but that you were very aware of being watched. So there was this multi-layered conversation occurring in the work, and also this multiplicity is something that I'm very interested in as a maker, as a performer, as a facilitator, and so I ended up, I think, over the course of it, as well as obviously being very interested in the content and the form and all of the nuances, I became really drawn to being with the multiplicity of what was occurring. And then as I was with that multiplicity, and I think it's amazing how as artists we can hold these multiplicities. I think that's an incredible quality and capacity that we have. And this is a little bit more of just an open question that came forward for myself. I then started to wonder about your process, but also about what I'm quite interested in work is, what does the work bring us closer to? So what does it bring us closer to as artists within our art, but also artists who are human beings within communities and societies and relationships? And what does it bring us closer to in relationship to dialogue with others, with audiences? And so I really value that actually by being with the work, I got to be in an internal conversation with myself around all these areas of contemplation around those things. So thank you so much for creating a space where I was able to be with those, as well as being with you in the journeys of there was a very clear sense of storytelling that was unfolding in the work. So being able to be with you in that storytelling and start to enjoy that and imagine with you. So thank you so much. That was my experience, really, the things that came forward for myself as I was viewing.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bridget. I think every session of Ojas leaves us with more questions than answers. So true to it, I think we take one more from you today. And the other thing that you spoke about, comprehending the intangible and, when space becomes visible, that I think that's something very special, which all of us as artists would understand. And we know how difficult it is, especially in a virtual space. So I think the performers would be super happy to hear that from you. So thank you very much. And I really think, as you said about the hidden layers, in every single layer that we have stepped on in its own many ways, both Raghuraman sir and Priyaka has kind of, sat and ironed it out in the context of text and the technique. So it's really very special for us when you make that observation. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Can we have Vinitha, please? Vinitha is a dance teacher from Middle East. So she comes from a different space, from a different geography. And how do you think, Vinitha, a project like Ojas Sangam sits in a space like that?
Namaskaram, sir and Deepa ma'am. Thank you so much for bringing me here. Firstly, I wanted to tell you that what seems so simple, like visually, It was one person dancing, dressed up so beautifully. And I must say, all of you looked so beautiful, so perfectly dressed, and so appealing in Abhinaya. So what seems so simple to a person watching, yeah, a friend is talking to the Sakhi, or, the hero is conversing with his partner. It seems so simple, but it actually makes, one think as to how much of work you have done, beginning from understanding the word by word poetry, which honestly, I think, yeah, I think I'm kind of in the middle generation. We have never got exposure, especially me growing up in the Middle East. The only little treasure I got was from Deepanti. That too, I met her late when I was like around 14 years of age, by the time I had to leave for my higher studies. So we never get exposure to such kind of learning. So this work of yours is actually a realization, for us to understand that where we should start from, actually, where we should start from. Like Sir said, each word means something. And when it becomes a phrase, it can have so many other interpretations. And so this is certainly, when I was watching each performance, for a person like me, yeah, we've heard of poetry, and we've heard of the typical Magam repertoire where we have padams. I really wished, that such beautiful poetry should come out more frequently than just a project. We should work on such poetries and include it in probably a repertoire. I think just to, let people know that we have such beautiful and rich culture. So it was really, really nice watching you all. And the beauty, I also felt, musically, it was just brilliant. It was just so good, because after each phrase, as Priyaka was saying, the interlude, so as a normal, as not even a dancer or anybody, as a layman, I could understand what probably the phrase meant because of the interlude. So it was so beautifully even choreographed that after dancing for that phrase, how you carried, what all you did in that prelude, which made us understand it more easier for when I saw the next phrase. So that was all very beautifully done. And it was a wonderful experience. And Sir, really, Koti pranams to you and your knowledge. And thank you so much for sharing it with us. Sir. Thank you. And thank you so much, Deepanti. And wonderful performance, everyone.
Thank you, Vinita, for catching that, because you're so very right. I think we are so privileged to have nothing but the best, support us and give so much of themselves. In fact, today morning I was talking to Savitri auntie, and she was saying, this kind of support is not, common and not available. So I think this generation is really very lucky to have the teachers giving so much of themselves, quite unconditionally. And in this particular project, we have really had the best. And every single dot, whether it's Sir, whether it is Priyaka, whether it is Rajkumar Sir, as you rightly said, we really didn't need to do much. We just need to stand and the music would speak for itself. And whether it is Sai Shavanam with reference to the, the quality of recording, every single member who played the instruments, the singer, Monali, who was there with us for every single rehearsals to keep the cheer of the dancers. We were really privileged. There's no doubt about it. Thanks for catching that, actually. And we come to Apurva. Now, it's interesting because Apurva has been with us in so many of our sessions, not just in Ojas Sangam, but actually over the last 1 year of Ojas, and has been parallelly thinking of what is it to revisit and contextualize. And there's always this tug of war between the grammar and the classical, and then the need to reach out. So within this tussle, I think it's interesting to hear Apurva's voice. Thank you, Apurva.
Thank you so much, Deepaka. First of all, really thank you for making me a part of this conversation and truly a part of this entire learning journey. I think what's been such a wonderful process. Like you rightly said, it's a privilege for us to be in a space with, people like Raghuraman Sir and Auntie sharing their knowledge with us. But I want to, concur with Mahalakshmi here and say, we also need, we all know that, Sir's doors, Auntie's doors are open for all of us who would probably want to go and, have this learning experience with them. Yet we need somebody to facilitate it, so that the process becomes something with like a meaningful process, something that we engage with and with the kind of momentum I think that we've had for the past year. Absolutely. So thank you so much for making me a part of that. And for me, I think as someone who's, attended the classes and observed this process, been a part of this learning as a student of dance, I think what for me Ojas has really reiterated is process over the product or the destination, right? And that has been really heartwarming for me because, just to be in a space where you learn because you have to learn and not because we have a deadline or a product or a performance in mind. And I think what we've seen today in terms of the performances really, confirm that faith for me, because if you let go of the product and you engage in the process, there is no way that the product is not going to turn out, the way you want it to be. And I think that's been the most beautiful thing for me. And, something that like Bridget said, what she observed about this, the space that the dancer inhabits and what is then you're also allowing an audience to view you. I'm sure all the dancers today will agree with me, like as students of dance and as people who are trying to, maybe create our own work, that's the biggest challenge. As easy as it may sound, it is, it's what you really learn to do, and you need to be guided to do that. There is a way. I think that's one of the most important things also for me through this process is that it is not something that just comes to you. There is a grammar that can lead you to that. And all of Priyanti's sessions have sort of led us one step closer to that, to how that very, very challenging thing can be achieved, right? And for me, I'd like to sort of add that one more dimension. Of course, I also looked at this from two layers because though I was present in the sessions, in many of the sessions that, Auntie was mentoring, of course, I have my own process of learning with Auntie. And what was interesting for me in this is to observe that learning take place in another person. And I think that's a very different kind of learning. What I've seen today is because I've seen all of you start, like open that fresh page and that sort of clean canvas and seen it probably not 100% through the way, but seen it in certain points along the way. And today to see where it stands. I think it's very fascinating to see how the ideas that are spoken about sort of translate on another person. And to me, I think that's also a lovely way of learning, which we don't get enough of. Rarely do we get the chance to be in another dancer's studio, observing their process of learning or practicing or creating. So I think Ojas has definitely facilitated that for all of us as well. So, well done to all of you. It is such a beautiful performance, and thank you, Deepaka. Thank you for
Thank you, Apurva, because I think every member who has been part of Ojas understands that it's about walking the journey. We all, as you rightly said, everyone knows all the phrases, journey is the destination, and then we know the philosophy that, the focus, all that's fine. But what is it? You put it very beautifully. It's about the focus on the product, and you just have the process, and the product evolves, obviously. Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Actually, I'll call upon Krishna Priya Natarajan, a young student of dance from UK. And given that it's nice to revisit and contextualize, but really what are we all doing this about? I think it's about, passing it on to the future. So let's really have what does the young voice have to say. So what was it, Krishna? I know it's coming all new to you, fresh to you. So we are waiting to hear.
Thank you for having me to speak today. I think at the start of this journey and when you started this project, I probably didn't realize the value and importance of like Sangam because it was a very unfamiliar idea to me. I didn't really know what it was about, but it's been really refreshing to see and being introduced to this new world. And first probably didn't think, I was like, how is this old literature going to relate to me today, but just seeing the richness and the culture, there's actually a lot of similarities and behaviors that haven't changed a lot throughout the years. And that's been really nice to see. And kind of seeing the process and behind the scenes of how bringing to life this poem into dance, like how important it is to stay true to the intentions and purity and soul of the poem is really important, because it's, you don't want to lose that intention, but also kind of taking it in your own voice as well, which is a really fine line, which was really interesting to see, and how everyone kind of took that in their own way. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Krishna. That really is very special, because like how when Sir spoke and Priyaka spoke, it was like, you know, getting the pass mark. Actually, what you spoke really means a lot, because that's where it all moves on. And I like what you said about the voice. And I think that's the other lesson that we have learned within Ojas, that it's so important to speak in your own voice. And we really learned it when someone as senior as Priyaka, it would have been so easy for her to just teach an item, which all of us understand. But you know, hours after hours, when she sits and listens to what you want and then tease out the best from you, I think we were really very, very lucky about that. So it's nice that you did catch that as well. So thank you very much, Krishna. It really means a lot to all of us as part of Ojas. Thank you. Thank you. I can almost hear them shout A. So yes, so we then have Anuradha Venugopal. Anuradha Venugopal is a student of dance who has been part of Ojas, and she wears different caps as a doctor in Manchester, as a parent of 2 young children. What is it to be part of Ojas? What is the value and significance of revisiting and contextualizing?
Namaskaram to everybody, and thank you so much, Deepaka. I don't know how many hats I wear, but today I wear the hat of a mute spectator. I have seen the 5 dances from the start of the Sangam project. I have always watched the videos in retrospect because of various reasons. And my perspective today, I mean, a lot has been said about the enormous efforts that have gone into this. So me saying anything is just going to reiterate how important this process of growth, of overall growth, not just as a dancer or a composer or a choreographer, but growth as an individual has been. And that's not just for the 5 dancers. Just watching them has had an effect on somebody like me. I haven't necessarily walked the path as they have, but just watching them has inspired me in different ways. And I want to just tackle it, break it down. So as an individual, I'll tell you, when April of last year came, 2 things happened. COVID happened and Ojas happened. So COVID happened and we were thrown into this world of uncertainties, of immense challenges. UK was going through its first major wave, and it was absolute chaos over here. And Ojas happened, which again was another unknown world of its own set of challenges, and yet the effect both have had on me as a training doctor are 2 different things. One was my obligation, the other was my respite. And I don't think I would have appreciated the value of each one had they not been so complementary. I don't mean a pandemic has to seize us for this, but sometimes something has to just stop us in our steps, right? And this time it was COVID. And during the first wave, Deepaka's Ojas had so many projects, some of which I could, again, use the word relate to, and some I just couldn't catch up and keep up with. So it went on and off. Now then come fast forward to October, when COVID's second wave happened and Sangam happened. Okay, that's when we started getting introduced to the poetry and then this concept of choreography and things like that. And by then, in both fields, so Ojas didn't seem so humongous. COVID, we sort of started realizing what we should be doing. So we were trying to find out, or at least I was trying to find my feet. And I know this is cliche, but to say organically, Sangam became my go-to point to unwind. Literally, that was it. So Raghuraman sir's lectures became the Suprabhata at home. I had to start shifts really early. So the only thing that would keep me away from COVID was talk about an era that we cannot even relate to, right? And that's how I just got interested in it. Now, at the end of it, so fast forward another 6 months, and here we are. Some talk of a third wave, some talk people are still doing what they want. We are doing, I think in the medical world, we are a bit more settled now. I professionally, I'm supposed to be a surgeon. So again, I'm a trainee surgeon there, and I'm a dance student here. And I think, keeping in context what the 5 dancers have shown today, my take home is you just have to enter an unknown world full of challenges, with the fears, with the nervousness, but just take it at face value. There is not much you can do when there are so many unknowns. And I think that has been such a good blessing because, again, it may sound cliche, but really the lessons of watching Sangam happen through these 5 beautiful ladies has actually reflected in the really intense year I have had as a trainee surgeon. So this whole concept of journey, the concept of internalizing, which we've heard so much, I said, wait a minute. If I can apply it to something that we cannot so-called relate to, which is Sangam, why can't we apply it at work where this is something I relate to? And so funnily enough, though this has been titled Revisit and Contextualize, I think on an individual level, and I want to speak for all of us, it is visiting and recontextualizing. Because Sangam was new, so we visited. It was a new thing. We haven't been there before. It was a world we hadn't known existed. So we were visiting it. But slowly, as I learned things, I just said, oh my, we can apply it to today. So to me, it was more visiting and recontextualizing. Again, as what I took back, the openness and the givingness, if I can use that word, of Raghuraman sir and Priyaka, and then later on Bharathi sir. I think it is, for what each one's effort was worth, the other gave 200%. And I'll tell you, in a cutthroat world of surgery, where it's dog eat dog, where it is one-upmanship, where it is machoism, it was so refreshing to come back home and just go into this space. You're looking at a computer, for heaven's sake. How can that be soothing? But can you imagine, after all the human interaction, you fall back on Zoom sessions to say, you know what? There's still some beauty out there, and that's what I'm going to take back into work. So thank you, Sangam, for that. And I'm going to keep this really short because the overlap of me being a student and me being a parent is quite obvious here. My kids are really, really young. But having said that, I have, as somebody who learned the practice of Bharatanatyam in the UK quite late in life, and then continuing it with Deepaka, I find this constant need for validation by parents over here who say that their students have to learn Indian arts to know their culture and know their heritage and what have you, okay? And the onus is on dance teachers or teachers of arts. And secondly is this goal posting, right? An arangetram or grade 6 or certificates, which are all great. And I think everyone should aspire it. But making that the goal is so unfortunate for the arts. That is a means to the end that cannot be the end. And these 5 beautiful teachers over here, who I am sure constantly are hard taught for their students to finish a particular grade by a particular age so that they can apply for university with a particular certificate. I wish their students sat here today and saw that even their teachers have gone back to being the humble students that we are all expected to be as students. This is the one factor that, unfortunately, both as a student and as an onlooker, I find missing in the diaspora, because they think you go and learn Bharatanatyam, you know everything about Indian culture. The point is, you go learn the arts, you know, whether it is vocal, whatever the arts, and whichever kind of arts, it instills in you all the qualities that we have seen in the 5 dances today: humility, grace, willingness to learn, wanting to accept mistakes. Do you know how huge this is, that on a public platform, when you call yourself a teacher, you're being told what to do? I mean, breaking it down very simply, that's what happened in our lessons. And look at the grace and the humility with which they took it on, and that's what has reflected in their dance. So I think it's a huge lesson to parents and to students who understand that this is not about a certificate. It is about the person you end up being. So thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Anu. In fact, that directly takes us to the next point about learning. And isn't it true when we come to Sittrin, it is about revisiting and contextualizing, right? So because before we realized, Sittrin was talking what we were actually facing rather than the other way. And yes, the 5 dance teachers have given so much, and all of us who have been in the sessions can understand that. So let's call upon a teacher to understand what is this about learning. Dr. Kamali Velayudham, lecturer, School of Management, University of Central Lancashire, Preston. Thank you, Dr. Kamali.
My pranams to everyone. And I feel like giving a little standing ovation to the whole crew of Ojas. So you were all, the person who speaks at the last has a big advantage, because I can grab all vocabulary. I had a honest feeling that this half an hour, most of the words in the dictionary was here. It was, but the thing is that the person who speaks the last has an advantage as well as a little disadvantage. So the only 2 words that are remaining was stunning and splendid. So thank you so much. I would really like to say my first thanks to Jayanthi Sivakumar for bringing me in here. So yeah. So I was just making little notes of all the conversation here. My first thing would be, when initially the project came out, my first conclusion was Sangam, Sangamam, because the 2 words, there are little similarity. When you look at Sangam, it was like, oh, Sangamam might be, are they trying to combine different art forms? Then it was like Sangam. When I watched, I would really like to thank the introductory video by Ojas, where I think I can say Priyaka. So where Priyaka was talking about this holistic project, the imagination, the creativity, everything gone into the project, and the support. I think the challenge was as a viewer, when I was watching this, my first question would be to the whole crew of Ojas: what was the reason behind to choose this poetry?
Any one of the dancers want to answer that? What was the reason to choose your poetry? I think Jayanthi has answered in one of the outreach already that she had the 2 sons.
I would like to.
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, hi, I'm Parimala. The reason I chose Sudar Todi was because it is a very innocent young love. Okay, and I have 2 young daughters who are going through the teenage. And I just wanted to feel, because always, most of the time in Padams and Javalis in that dance, we have something like Khandita Nayaka, or having an affair, the Nayaka has an affair or something like that. So this was very innocent and pure love. Immediately it connected me. I can maybe within few years, I can see my daughters maybe going through the same stage. And it was easy for me to observe their behavioral changes in the way they dress up, way they talk, way they carry themselves. I think it was quickly I got attracted to the song. And absolutely, sir's explanation was when he was explaining Sudar Todi, I was like imagining the children playing the sandcastle. Everything was so beautifully he portrayed, he depicted. It was like a cinema. I've just told that in my feedback. It was like immediately it caught hold of me. I said, this I can give it a try. And while doing that in the process, I was enjoying every moment of it. So yeah, that's it.
Parimala,
Yeah.
I also remember that when Sir gives examples, he gives very candid examples which we can relate to. And possibly that's one reason why you could, kind of put your own girls in that context, or Jayanthi could put her sons in that context. So, it's the way you draw that into relevance.
It is connecting to my own life, because he said, Adaichiya Kotha in a small string of hair. I remember I was tying my 2 daughters to pigtail. I said, oh my God, I used to do that for my daughter. I mean, it's easy for me to relate it, and that so quickly I could imagine my child with the image of having 2 ponytails.
Yeah.
It was so beautiful.
And I remember you said one more thing while we were discussing about selection. You said, I don't want any separation, anger, nothing. I want a nice, happy, positive thing. I remember that.
It's true, yes. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
So what I kind of felt was that, the person who spoke before me, she was a surgeon. For me, it is like I watched in some of the performance, the initial clippings, that kind of motivated me to learn about the Sangam poetry. So I started learning about it. So I think Raghuraman sir, please correct me. My understanding is that the literature is there. And when these 5 beautiful dancers under the guidance of Priyadarsini Govind, so when they bring it up onto stage, I personally feel there is a connection between the Agam and the Puram. So please correct me. This is one of my observations. So there was a connectivity between, though it was classified as Agam and Puram, I felt there was a little connection between the Agam and the Puram. This was based on my little reading that was motivated by the crew of Ojas.
Aren't we the same human being? We might be something when we are out there in office. When we come in, yes, the shades might be different, but we are the same human being at the end of it.
So
concerned to Sangam age, both the Agam and Puram are interrelated. You cannot separate the Agam from Puram, or you cannot separate the Puram from Agam. So both the heroes' qualities are the same and the heroines' quality are the same. Because they did only 1 or 2 songs from Purananuru. If you go and read most of the songs in Purananuru, automatically you can understand, because of that Agam's influence only they have written like that. Mm-hmm. So the Agam and Puram, it is like a palm and the rear side of the palm. That's why what the grammarians also say.
Oh, thank you so much, Raghuraman sir. I know I've been given 3 minutes, but I've just got one last question, because every sequence of this dance provokes me to just have coming like, I think the teaching zone, I stepped into my teaching zone, and okay, this sequence, okay, this is a literature. How did they choreograph this? So that kind of questions, every sequence of all the 5 dances provoked good imagination, creativity. And, I really like to catch upon one phrase, what Priyadarsini Govind had mentioned in this holistic project. The structured grammar was carried out in all the 5 performances of you all. So absolutely, it was scintillating. But now, this is my, the academic hat of mine. Now coming to a mother, I'm a mother of 2. My daughter is a student of Dr. Swati Rawat. She has just finished her grading. So she might step into the intermediate. My thing is that I kind of feel this, though we say it's Vedic, this ancient poetry has to come on board. The students have to know this, because, the performances that during this COVID times, all the performances that we have been watching was based on a different zone of the poetic side of language of Tamil literature. But the Sangam, definitely none of us were aware of it. And I personally feel, because all my passion and interest towards the art form is, I used to drop Janani, my daughter, in Milap. She used to take the training. I used to sit, do my work. So that hearing, for me, it was like so much of passion was only developed by hearing, by feeling the art form. So my last question would be, I personally feel this has to be taken to the next generation.
Thank you so much.
So what will be your teaching techniques? Because the structured grammar has to be passed on. The imagination, the creativity, definitely the students will have it. But for example, if it is an agam, please correct me if my understanding of agam and puram is wrong. Agam, okay, it's a love between a man and a woman. Okay. But puram, when it comes to, the rulers, for example, when we talk about the Maratha rulers, the children are not aware of it. So what would be your challenges?
I'll just take 1 second. I just have to reiterate and come back to a point that we have been speaking, that every single dot matters, because someone like Raghuraman sir has been trying for so many decades to take this out. And he has waited for so many years for even all of us who want to listen to get to know what it is.
Definitely.
So it's a long journey, and every single person has to put in that effort. We just heard Krishna speak. We are hearing you as a mother speak. We have heard 5 teachers actually perform. So I think if each of us take one step at a time, eventually the journey will unfold. And there are no shortcuts for this anyway.
No.
So, in fact, I think it is about seeing the unseen, because at that point, let me just introduce to you Vipul. Vipul, can you just say hi so that everyone knows where you are? Vipul, are you around? Well,
classic problem.
Yeah.
Microphone off.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Because at this point, I really want to introduce Vipul. And when we speak about, seeing the unseen, no one really knows the kind of effort that Vipul has done within this project that we saw. We saw the 5 dancers actually dance, but the 5 dancers themselves know really the layers that Vipul has worked, because it's all about designing, packaging, and reaching out. So first of all, Vipul, thank you. Thank you for being the layer which never comes out there and actually has come today. So let's hear you actually.
It's been fantastic to be part of the journey with you, Deepa, especially. One of the reasons I sort of keep at it with you, because there is a level of enthusiasm which is incredible. I mean, I know when she sleeps, but it's invariably that I'm speaking to her at 2 in the morning, and then following that, I'm working at 2 in the morning so that she can catch up in the morning with whatever is happening. That said, I think this has been a fabulous experience to see this whole process, especially I had met Professor Raghuraman a very long time ago with Anusha, and I mean, one has heard him. I heard him then, and I heard of him subsequently, continuously in some ways or other. But to sort of dip in and out of this whole process that has been going on and hear him speak, and the kind of the scholarship that comes with what he's saying, as well as the fact that the contextualizing of the scholarship in its sort of non-sanitized form, in the sense there's so much of, and I look at Bharatanatyam, there's a whole bunch of cleaning up that keeps going on with trying to, look at the poetry and the music and everything else. Because I think there has been a great amount of stuff that has come on, and especially with Deepa sort of making sure that all the various aspects are seen and covered in this has been so rich. Other thing which really is important for me is a lot of times, especially in, if I use the word Indian context, there is an element of aesthetics that we're talking about. And as a designer, for me, that becomes very important aspect, because we have very beautiful dance, we have very beautiful music, but what we somehow forget is all the other stuff that needs to be created around it to present it in a way that everything is beautiful. It's like I remember when Sir's initial videos, with that window at the back, Sir, and I was telling Deepa, why do you have that window at the back with that, and now I see this beautiful kalamkari, and it just makes such a lot of difference. because it gives a whole different meaning. And I think we have to remember the aesthetics are so much integral to talking about any kind of dance form. And if we don't keep track of all the other bits that make that visible, it loses its impact. It loses its sort of context. I mean, you go to enough Indian temples and you have beautiful carved temple and everything else. Somebody will go and put an iron rail with the, those folding doors, which are from the hardware store, which could be part of a, somebody selling, whatever. And that kind of aesthetic shift that needs to move away from, making sure everything is complete is important. And this graphics that I worked on for Deepa, with Deepa, has been really, really important, especially for this section. Deepa insisted that, the landscape had to come in. And yeah, we have seen enough in Tamil Nadu and I mean, all the festivals, with all the mug shots coming in one by one, which probably has its own limitations, whether political parties do it or dancers do it or the sabhas do it. It was, how do you get this whole element of the Sangam poetry and literature, keeping in mind that each element is affected, communicated something. So the choice of image, the way we work with the image, the way we have been working with the graphics right through, making sure that there is a consistency right across throughout the process, so that there is visually there is a connection right through. When anybody looks at it, there is always a way to know that this is a professional exercise, which has been given enough respect by the organization which is doing it for what it contains. So it is taken as seriously for any kind of way, so that the content matches the presentation, which is very, very important. And speaking of today's performance, I mean, it was a great fun. Deepa and I have been having these chats where the dancing and the dancers, and I've spoken to all of you, I think, at some point separately, is how do you record something like this? We've got so used to now over 1.5 years to see these performances in different ways. And everybody is up their game. So now black backgrounds are coming in. People are putting, rods and draping themselves, or, going to the garden and making sure that there's a red plant on which in front of you are dancing, and which is the whole background, which is very important. And trying to tweak that, trying to get the best of the technology that is going on. But yesterday, Jayanthi, yours was a challenge last night, and it was done at some crazy hour in the morning, and you would have realized what's happened to it from how it started off.
We have all had surprises down the journey.
Yes, we will. Definitely, I had the challenge.
Background where the feet were getting lit and the face wasn't lit. And how do you shift Parimala? I don't know, Parimala, if you noticed. Because it's all those things which you might not notice yourself, but for me become very important. I had to brighten your face, darken your background. This is in Parimala's case.
Correct.
Divya, I tried, and I gave up. Because that wide angle just killed me. I had to stretch out the form slightly, and then I said, if I do that, it'll be like forever.
But Vipul, the biggest step is that we all tried. And that's what
that is the important thing. But I think one has to now keep making sure that one is building on it. Because trying is important, but I think everybody has to recognize what it needs to get done. So next time one doesn't go with some, kind of things that, I mean, like Divya, when I first talked to her about video and the kind of, there was the desk and there was other kind of things, and we removed that, and slowly that background is getting cleaned. And those shifts are very important. And when the students see that, when everybody else sees that, it's like what Priya did when I went to Kalakshetra, when I first went to Kalakshetra before the change that happened, before Leela and Priya and all of that. It was a different place. You walk into a faculty's house and still there was, aesthetically we were challenged.
I think the first and the most important thing is to become aware and sensitive to aesthetics. Absolutely. And as in with reference to the text and Sangam grammar, we have gone nowhere, but at least we have realized that there's a grammar. We have now realized that dancing is not just coming on stage and, feeling like that, but there's a process behind it. And I think even with reference to aesthetics, we have at least come to understand that there's something called aesthetics. It's taken all this journey for us to just becoming sensitive to the unseen and intangible, I guess. That's what Ojas has brought us. But hopefully, sorry.
It is important to keep that in view, because it's very easy to slip out from there.
Sure, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think kind of learning is a tick box on the box saying, yes, done.
Yeah.
What sir is saying, like, lot of elements. I think each one who is a specialist in the field will come and say, okay, this is the checklist you have to keep in mind when you're performing.
Sure.
And make sure that every aspect is consciously addressed.
Actually, you're so right, Vipul, because in many ways we have been very lucky, because these are, in some ways, as Anu did point out, these 5 dancers are one of those few people who have actually taken that step to say, okay, I want to learn more, and have come so far. So probably it is in the best hands for them to take it from there and take one step at a time. And in the wider context, let's see really where does all this sit within a diaspora? Shiba Nambiar. Now you work with people with National Mental Health Charity in London, I understand. So really within a diaspora, where does all this conversation actually sit?
Okay, before I start with that, thank you for inviting me, and thank you, Krithika, for making me part of this whole Ojas group and the dance related to the Sangam literature. I would like to start with what Raghuraman sir and Priyaka has mentioned about the Sangam literature. It's very difficult to understand, but all the performers have depicted the emotions so very well that we could easily connect to what they are going to say or what they are trying to enact through their performance. It was beautifully captured, the love, sorrow, every angle of the emotions that a couple goes through in their relationship. So like, for example, when the man comes, so the body language change, when it's the woman's turn. So it is elegantly shown, the love, anger. What I saw in one of the performance, like she's cooking, blowing to burn the fire. And then she gets angry and the man trying to convince, I'm a non-dancer, but I can easily relate to what is being shown because I love Bharatanatyam. I have a daughter who's a criminal law graduate. She did learn Bharatanatyam for many years and then she used to perform. So I could easily connect to. And the most importantly, what I liked, the mother replies to the girl about her son who is in the battlefield. I could relate to because my father was an army officer and he was posted in the remotest areas. So I was trying to relate to what is being shown by the performer and how beautifully it's being shown. And coming to the next question about working with mental health, yeah, it's very difficult, when I'm working in a charity sector, dealing with, mental health issues. So this is one art, like we can always tell people to be connected. It's like a meditation also. So, and then people can come out of their challenges. So I find it very useful. And I found this dance and the whole process about the performance performing very useful. And I'm definitely going to link it to people so that they can, come out of it. Like all others have spoken about it, like Anuradha spoke about, we are all going through the COVID at the moment and how we can come back home and then listen to the music, performance and come out of all the worries. So it was beautiful.
I actually had a quick question to ask you, Shiva, because you work with people and sometimes a sense when you're within an ethnic minority and within a diaspora where we are, what is the positioning of this kind of a project, which is for a specific time period, specific culture? So what is this all about? How does this play within your space?
It's understanding a culture. First, we'll have to make them understand that this is a different culture. So once they are aware of the culture, then I think it will be easy for them to adapt. So it will be good. It will be good for them to adapt and then, yeah.
The dancers like to speak. What was it like? So we have, I think, Jayanthi, Divya, and Nrithya. Would you like to speak?
Yeah. Okay. Shall I go? I've got this huge smile on my face, not just after what we've gone through, but just listening to everybody talk right now. I think it is tick the box for everything that Ojas has been, just the journey we've all had. It is not just, I think, we've all learned very different skills. One was from a researcher's point of view. I think Kamali asked earlier on as to how did you choose this particular poem or poetry, which I think that's the entire credit goes to Raghuraman sir, because when he explains any poetry, the whole landscape just sort of unfolds in front of you and you can actually imagine. So once that imagination happens, you automatically connect and say, oh my God, I am in that place. So I think that entire credit goes to sir for that. And I think the way it is very, very detailed, it is not just here is the poem, take it, you do what you want. Every aspect of where the landscape is, where the context is. So I think we all learned, just the society from where it was. And I think also connecting the dots, coming back to it is, what was accepted then, do we still accept it now? What used to happen then, I mean, yes, there are very lots of similarities now, but there was a certain structure then in the society, and it was very, very, we had to sort of really detail it in our heads and learn it before we could actually, I think, convert it into a choreography. Coming to what Bridget said earlier on about being in that space, I think as dancers, obviously we talk about Bhava, Rasa, Abhinaya all the time. I think those are all technical terms we hear, but absolutely about leading a dance, leading the audience into that. That comes from that internalization, I think, of knowing your content as to what you want to present. But this Ojas has not just been about just dance, I feel. I think we've all grown as, I mean, obviously, it's like a nice family feeling, which Mahalakshmi said earlier on. But more importantly, I think there are so many other skills we have learned. I think the greatest thing is this entire project has been on an online platform. I don't think any of us we've never met live. So if we could do so much from just an online interactions, I don't know where this project will go. If we could have live interactions, I think it will just take it to an absolute different level. So Deepa, just an absolute amazing, I mean, I really say brilliant. I think she is like the super manager.
No. That's not.
No. I know it, but I think it's we have to say it. It is not just about there have been so many times where like, oh, I can't do this. I mean, this is so much. She'll be like, no, it'll be fine. Just so just that calming down, and not just Deepa and the all of you. Thank you so much.
That's true.
So many times we've all had doubts, right? But it's that calm, and I think it's just that, and I think it's that take. Again, Apurva said, right? It's the journey. It's not the product. I think the product was an organic process. It just happened. The journey was what.
Do you want to add? Because you have gone through a lot of change, actually. Divya, you are one person whose character changed so much.
Namaskaram to everybody. Firstly, thanks.
Divya, I think you've muted yourself.
Can you hear me now?
Sorry, yeah.
Namaskaram to everybody. I just want to say thank you to Deepaka, first of all, for having this mammoth vision of bringing in the past to the present and giving us a way to connect to the future. Coming to Deepaka's, of course, massive change. I mean, I've been here with this project for the last 6 months, and I can say it here that I started with one vision and ended up being something else, and that something else in the end was the right one. Thanks to Raghuraman sir and Priyaka for fine-tuning it and correcting me every single time I would drift off the Sangam grammar. Because imagination has no bounds. You can keep on being creative and imagining, and then we don't know when we drift off the context, and then it's too late to come back. But Priyaka always had this leash on everybody of us. No, come back. What is the intention? Okay, do you want to do this? Then you have to stick with this thing. You cannot go on talking about irrelevant stuff. That was really, really helpful. But on top of that, this process has instilled a growth in me as an artist, because I can speak on behalf of everybody here that we were not just invested on our own poem or dance. We were equally invested in every single poem, and we would, it was, there was no ego clash there. We were very happy to surrender and help with each and every buddy's poem exploration or dance or choreography, pitching in ideas, and everybody was very receptive. That was the best and beautiful thing in this project. I just want to say thanks to everybody who has been passively and directly part of this project in bringing this all to fruition. Thank you so much.
So true, Divya. Very, very well brought together, actually. Anyone else? Krithika?
I'd like to say thank you, Deepa, and pranams to Raghuraman sir and Priyaka. This journey was been so wonderful. Even before I could choose Sittrin, I think Sittrin chose me, I think. The one funny thing was I've been attending all the other songs when Raghuraman sir was saying, but when Sittrin came, I actually missed that one particular class. And then Deepa told me, see, you have to listen to this poem. And then I happened to go through the poem. And then I thought I could actually kind of resonate to that poem, as to why Deepa saying this to me. I was thinking, and then I thought, okay, it's a nice, sweet poem, simply a small poem. And I thought everybody has chosen Agam song. Okay, let me choose the Puram song, just to go ahead and challenge myself. I took it on.
So true.
My God, I didn't know what I was getting into. It was quite a challenge. And I had to actually call Raghuraman sir again to, confirm small bits of doubts here and there. And Priyaka had to chisel out so much of things and say, focus, come back. And she was drawing me, and she was so patient as well. And thinking back and going back to my recording and seeing how much patient she was in chiseling out and trying to, make us all focus into, I think it was each and every one of us journey as well. The same thing.
Absolutely.
I mean, it was such an adventurous journey, Deepa. I should say thank you to you. The goal was there, but we didn't know how it was going to be. We're going to approach that goal. But with all the, different things that came in, it was really a very beautiful adventure.
I think Ojas was one such space where, everything came together. Sir made it possible. When listening to Sir, you think anything is possible. Priyaka would come and say, I challenge everything for us to actually stop, go back and take that step. So it was such a beautiful, balanced kind of parenting as Kamli has brought in together. Krithika, would you like to say anything?
Yes, I just wanted to summarize my entire journey with just 3 key points. So one was like we were challenged at every stage, starting with Raghuraman sir exploring the text and then trying to visualize and then getting into the details of presentation with Vipul, and every stage was a challenge, and we were pushed to come out of our comfort zone. And personally, I've pushed myself, and that is what Ojas is all about, pushing boundaries. So that's the first major takeaway for me. And secondly is also values for life. Why I say this is because Anu brought a very key point, like how do we pass on this learning to the next generation? I think it is also because of the learning that we've had from our teachers and the rigor that has been going on for so many years that we are able to be open-minded in learning as well. So I think that is what we as teachers need to inculcate in the next generation. So sir, be it sir, Priyaka, everybody provided that non-judgmental, safe space just to be there for learning. I think that is the quality, and that intention as an artist is what I think we should pass on to the next generation to make them achieve their full potential. And then the last is the learning curve. I thought dressing up and going and performing on a stage was the toughest thing, but no, getting up and getting ready for a camera is much more difficult. And that, thanks to Vipul for all this advice, I think we've just done a bit of justice to what he said, but I think there's still more to learn. So I think this whole journey has been a massive learning curve, and thank you so much for each and every one, starting with Sir, Deepaka, Priyaka, and everybody and all the artists, because it will be like a jamming session, because we don't know who's coming in for the session. We know Priyaka will be there, but then there'll be so many other artists as well from different spheres of life being there. And I think we were out there trying to do at least something and challenge ourselves.
Actually, I think you really have brought that very important dot in focus, Krithika, because when we come in between those two dots as our own past teachers and our future, it really brings to focus the responsibility that we have. And we really don't have to worry too much, because when we have such wonderful people giving so much, all that we need to just sit and soak. That's what we have been doing. So I think we just need to continue doing what we have done, and it will eventually pan out. Kamli asked this question, how can we do this? Well, we don't have to do much. Just sit, listen, take in, because there are enough wonderful people giving their best. All that we need to do is just listen and take in, soak, and do our best. Take one step at a time. Thank you so much. Thanks to all of you for coming so far in this journey.